Wow, did you see that? Welcome to another episode of McNulty's Book Corral. And I'm your host, Thomas McNulty. And guess what? We just had a visitor in the corral. He came from EC Comics from way, way back. So today we're talking about scary books. And let's jump right into it. I know you vintage book collectors out there, you paperback collectors are familiar with this one. This is the Airmont Frankenstein from the early 60s. Airmont paperbacks are highly collectible. I do collect them, obviously. You'll see more in a moment. This is one of the great, this was my first, actually, the first copy of Frankenstein I ever owned. And I still own it. I love Airmont paperbacks. So Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, what a great book. So this is for that space on your bookcase that you're going to fill, all right? Here's another Airmont, and this is probably, I think, the most famous Airmont paperback from that period. Let's get a good look at the cover here. This is the Dracula edition from Airmont in the early 60s with a cover that is intentionally meant to resemble actor Christopher Lee. As you can see, this is highly sought after. This is a near pristine copy that I own. I own multiple copies of these Airmonts. These are great books. I love them. Airmont paperbacks. If you're looking for classic literature, go on eBay and find some of the Airmont paperbacks. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, another fantastic cover from Airmont. Early 60s. The early 60 Airmonts were just incredible. You can't go wrong. Now we're going to jump ahead a little bit to H.G. Wells. Now some of these authors you're going to see again in multiple episodes. H.G. Wells will be appearing in the science fiction episode coming soon. This is The Island of Dr. Moreau. This is the Berkeley paperback from the 70s. So again, you vintage paperback collectors, you know what I'm talking about. There are certain books that we covet, that we collect, and we love, and that is H.G. Wells. Scary books. So you're going to take notes, right? You're going to fill that space on your bookcase, and you're going to fill it with these great books. The Devil Rides Out by Dennis Wheatley. This is better known in England and the United Kingdom than it is in the United States. Dennis Wheatley was a phenomenal writer. I have quite a few of Dennis Wheatley's titles in my collection. Can't go wrong with this one. Classic Spookville right there. And one of my favorites, we're going to get to Joseph Payne Brennan here. Now, Joseph Payne Brennan is best known for The Shapes of Midnight and Nine Horrors and a Dream. These are the new editions recently put out by Dover. They're easily found on Amazon. Classic literature, classic scary stuff. Joseph Payne Brennan is one of those writers. For some reason, whenever I post something on my blog about Joseph Payne Brennan, I get weird emails from people. I think you need to just put a diaper on and get over it. You know, that's just the way it is. I like Joseph Payne Brennan. He was spooky. Now, again, for you book collectors out there, McNulty's Book Corral is always recommending esoteric, hard-to-find titles. This is The Borders Just Beyond. This is a signed edition that I purchased years ago from Joseph Payne Brennan. Of all of the writers that I have posted reviews on my blog about, Joseph Payne Brennan is the one that I get really wacky emails from people about. There's his signature on that. This was a limited edition. Joseph Payne Brennan, if you're looking for Halloween material, Joseph Payne Brennan. Now remember that song, It's 5 o'clock somewhere? It's Halloween somewhere, okay? It's always Halloween somewhere. Stephen King, you can't have an episode about scary books without talking about Stephen King. I'm recommending today Pet Sematary. This is a new edition I picked up at Walmart just because I wanted a fresh edition for this episode. Stephen King goes back a long way. He's been around forever. You can't go wrong with Stephen King. Do it. You can handle it. Now we're getting down to some vintage writers. Richard Matheson. I know you Twilight Zone fans are familiar with Richard Matheson. We have an episode coming up about the Twilight Zone. We have a science fiction episode coming up. Richard Matheson is one of those authors that will be mentioned multiple times in this video series. Hell House is a masterpiece. One of the most frightening books I think I've ever read. Modern authors. I love to give a plug to modern authors whenever possible. And here are two by James A. Moore. Perfect Halloween material. You can tell by the title. Great material. James A. Moore is out there. I've never met him. I'm a fan of his books. Here's two You need to add these to your Halloween collection. And at midnight on Halloween, open up one of these books and you'll scare yourself. I guarantee it. Now, as a nod to the opening segment that you saw, EC Comics reprints are widely available. I think you saw this in the opening segment. Tales from the Crypt remains the standard by which all other horror comics are judged. We will have episodes in the future related to horror comics and comic books of other types as well. Now, we were talking about Stephen King. Let's talk about Anne Rice. This is one of my favorite Anne Rice novels, which is The Mummy. I think she's fantastic. There she is on the back. Anne Rice, I buy Anne Rice continuously. She's still out there. Stephen King is still out there. James A. Moore, they are still out there. Fantastic writers. I'm a big fan, so I collect them as well. Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury is one of several authors in this episode that you're going to hear about in other episodes of McNulty's Book Corral. This is Something Wicked This Way Comes, which I think is a truly frightening masterpiece of terror. Ray Bradbury is better known as a writer of science fiction, but read this. Read Something Wicked This Way Comes. This is a great paperback, by the way. This was the Berkeley, this was the Bantam paperback, when all of the Bantam paperbacks for Bradbury had his image on the cover from the 70s. Great paperbacks to collect for you vintage paperback collectors out there, and I know you're there. Robert Bloch's Psycho. I consider this one of the top 3 scary books, along with Richard Matheson's Hell House, and so my top 3, if you're going to have the top 3, I'm telling you, if you're going to do that, you're going to get to this guy, and we're going to end it with one of my favorites. This is Guy Newman Smith, Guy N. Smith, The Wood. I consider this probably the scariest book ever published. I think it's a masterpiece. I have met Guy Smith. I recently met him in England when I was there. My wife and my sister-in-law went to England, and we went to his home and met Guy with several other writers of thrillers of this nature. And he is a true gentleman, a great writer. So there's The Wood. And then we have, I'm going to do 3 Guy Smith, okay, because I'm a fan. The Island. This book gave me nightmares. Guy Smith is one of the few writers of this type of literature that can give me a nightmare. He may be the only one, frankly. What a great book. Frightening stuff. This is not for the squeamish, not for the weak at heart. You need to be very careful here. Not for super young children, high school and up. And finally, I want to end with the Sinister Horror Company just reprinted Guy's classic 3 werewolf novels right here in this beautiful edition that's available on Amazon. So even though Guy Smith is best known in the United Kingdom, he does have a following here in the United States, and you can jump right in to Amazon and order. This is probably a good starting point for Guy Smith, are these 3 classic werewolf novels, and there's some bonus material in here as well. It's a pretty thick compilation. It's great. I mean, this is super great material. Again, I'm a big fan and admirer of Guy N. Smith, and that's why I wanted to end this episode with this. Now, I also want to mention that this is the first of multiple episodes where we're going to be talking about scary books, okay? Real scary books. And we're going to cover a lot of different types of authors, and make really good recommendations for you. So watch for those. And again, remember, as always, and I've told you this before, and I want you to pay attention. I want you to stay well. I want you to stay happy. I want you to feed your brain. Read a book.